The next morning, the first rays of sunlight spilled gently across the bed, casting pale gold streaks across the tangled sheets. Sasha stirred first, blinking slowly. For a second, she wasn't sure where she was until she felt the warmth beside. Daniel's arm was draped loosely across her waist, one hand resting against her stomach like it had belonged there all along. His chest rose and fell steadily behind her, his breath warm on the back of her neck. She didn't move. Not yet. Her eyes stayed on the soft light filtering through the curtains as her heart thudded with a quiet, disbelieving rhythm. They hadn't just crossed a line last night. They'd erased it. She let her fingers trace along his arm gently, thoughtfully. There had been no regrets, no second thoughts, just warmth, closeness, truth finally uncloaked. She felt safe, and a little afraid of how much that mattered. Behind her, Daniel shifted. She felt him wake before he spoke, his fingers twitching slightly, his body stretching with a quiet groan. "Morning," he murmured, voice raspy with sleep. Sasha turned her head slightly, offering a sleepy smile. "Hi," he blinked at her, still half dreaming. Then, after a moment, he smiled too. It was small, real, one of those rare smiles that didn't come with any armor. "You okay?" he asked, voice low. She nodded. "Are you?" He shrugged lazily. "I've been worse." She chuckled under her breath. "Not exactly the reassurance I was hoping for. I mean, He ran a hand over his face and then down her side gently, deliberately. "I'm better than I've been in a long time." Sasha's eyes softened. She reached back and brushed a curl off his forehead. "Me too." They lay like that for a few more minutes, soaking in the stillness that only comes right before the world intrudes. But eventually, it did. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, dashed twice. Sasha reached for it reluctantly. A message from her assistant. Another from HR, confirming a meeting she forgot she had at 10. She sighed. "I have to get up." Daniel groaned into the pillow. "No, you don't." "I do." He leaned over and pressed a kiss to her shoulder. 5 more minutes. She glanced back at him. "That's dangerous." "I like dangerous now." She rolled her eyes and sat up, pulling the sheet with her. "You're impossible." He grinned sleepily and watched her as she slid out of bed. "You're beautiful." She paused, surprised. "Then, don't say that unless you mean it." "Do." She didn't answer, but her smile lingered as she disappeared into the bathroom. Later. In the kitchen, Daniel stood at the stove, flipping eggs when Sasha walked in, hair up in a messy bun, wearing a navy skirt and cream blouse. He looked up and blinked. "You dressed already?" "Some of us have actual jobs." He smirked. "And some of us work from home in pajama pants." She slid into the chair and watched him for a beat. "You're in a good mood." He glanced over his shoulder. "Shouldn't I be?" Stasha didn't answer. She just sipped the coffee he had, ready poured, and felt the flutter in her chest again. He made her eggs the way she liked them. No questions, no jokes. Just quiet thoughtfulness. And when she got up to leave, bag on her shoulder and keys in hand. She paused at the front door. Daniel looked up from the sink. She hesitated, then crossed the room, leaned in, and kissed him. Softly, not passionate, not rushed, just warm. "I'll see you tonight," she said. Daniel smiled. "I'll be here." At the office, 11:07. A.M. Sasha was halfway through a spreadsheet when her assistant poked her head in. "There's a visitor downstairs," she said. "She says she's your cousin." Sasha frowned. "My cousin?" The assistant shrugged. "She didn't leave a name, but she's very persistent." Sasha stood slowly. "I'll come down." She grabbed her blazer, heart suddenly uneasy. Meanwhile, at home, Daniel was on a video call when his phone buzzed with an unknown number. He ignored it. Then a second buzz came. This time, a voicemail. He played it on speaker while pouring himself another cup of coffee. "Daniel, it's your father." "We need to talk immediately." "We need to talk immediately." before the board hears it from someone else. Daniel froze. Coffee forgotten. The air shifted. Sasha's office lobby, 2:11:12 a.m. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. And Sasha stepped into the lobby of her building, scanning for any familiar face. Then she saw her. Luna, poised, elegant, wearing a pale beige trench coat over a sleek black dress. Her smile was polite, but her eyes, though sharp, calculating eyes, were unmistakable. Sasha's breath hitched for just a second. She'd only seen Luna in photos, in articles, on Daniel's screens, when he didn't realize she was looking. Always perfect, always distant. A part of Daniel's past that seemed too neatly wrapped in silk and silence. Sasha approached slowly, keeping her expression neutral. I wasn't expecting a visit. Luna offered a smooth smile. I didn't come to cause trouble. Just wanted a chat. May we? She gestured toward a quiet corner near the building cafe. Sasha hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. They sat across from each other. The silence between them wasn't awkward, which was intentional. Like both were measuring every move. Luna set her handbag down neatly and folded her hands. I won't waste your time. I just wanted to meet the woman who finally got Daniel to say I do. Sasha blinked. You seem surprised? Oh, I'm more curious than anything, Luna replied, crossing her legs. You see, I know Daniel. He doesn't open doors, doesn't fold blankets, doesn't sleep on the couch unless he's hiding from his own feelings. And yet, suddenly, he's playing house. Sasha kept her tone level. People change. Luna tilted her head. Do they? Or are they just pretending to change until someone sees through it? Sasha leaned in. What are you really doing here? Luna's smile faded just slightly. Daniel doesn't like being manipulated, and he hates being vulnerable. If this is some elaborate PR game, this is just about optics, you might want to be careful, because he's not the man he pretends to be in press conferences. He's softer than he looks, and angrier than you think. Sasha stared at her, calm, steady. Is that why you left? She asked quietly. Luna blinked. Just once, then stood. I thought you were a temp, a distraction. But now? She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded envelope. This was meant for Daniel? Maybe he should see it. But maybe you should read it first. She slid it across the table and walked away without another word. Sasha stared at the envelope for a long moment. Her name wasn't written on it, but her fingers curled around it anyway. Daniel's house. Same time, Daniel stared at the paused voicemail screen. The tension in his jaw was visible, even to the reflection in the glass. His father's voice was calm, measured, but Daniel could hear the warning buried under the surface. He dialed back, hands shaking. Dad, Daniel, came the familiar voice, smooth and distant. So, a wife. Daniel exhaled slowly. I don't owe you an explanation, except when it affects our company. His father cut in sharply. You married? Someone the board barely knows. A woman with no ties, no money, and no family influence. And now there are whispers about why. Daniel's voice dropped. They're whispering because they're scared of what's changing. Let them. His father chuckled dryly. You always were sentimental. That's your mother's blood in you. I warned you about emotion. Now the board thinks this is a stunt. That you're unraveling. I'm not unraveling. Then prove it. Bring her to the foundation gala next week. Show everyone what she's really made of. Or walk away from the inheritance. Your choice. Daniel's lips parted, stunned. You'd cut me off. You'd be surprised what I'd do to protect the legacy I built. The line went dead. Daniel stood there, gripping the counter so hard his knuckles whitened. For once, he didn't care about the company. He cared about her. And now, he had to ask her to play along again. After the most real night of their lives, Sasha's office, 2:45 p.m., the envelope sat unopened beside her laptop. The edges were crisp, clean, but her mind WASN single quotes. She finally reached for it. fingers trembling slightly. Inside was a single photograph. Daniel, years ago, standing in front of a hospital bed, holding someone's hand, and on the back, in neat cursive, the words, "He never told you about Emily, did he?" Sasha didn't cry when she saw the photograph. She didn't react at all. In fact, not at first, just stared. Her thumb brushed the edge of the photo again and again, as if the motion might erase the question scrawled on the back. He never told you about Emily, did he? No, he hadn't. She didn't even know who Emily was. She closed her office door, locked it, and sat on the edge of the couch by the window, the late afternoon sun casting a fractured glow across the floor. Her thoughts spiraled not with anger, but with quiet ache. How many versions of Daniel still lived in the shadows? How many truths had he tucked away in corners he didn't want her to touch? And yet, wasn't she doing the same? Holding her breath every time he asked if she was really okay. Dodging vulnerability like it was a game they both played in silence. Still, this felt different. This felt deliberate. By the time she returned home that evening, Daniel was already in the kitchen. He'd cooked again. Chicken with lemon butter, roasted vegetables. Something soft playing from the speakers in the corner. He looked up as soon as she walked in. "There you are," he said gently. "You didn't text." "I got busy," she replied, hanging her coat slowly. His eyes flicked across her face, registering something. A pause, a question unasked. But he said nothing. They ate in near silence, forks clinking softly. She complimented the food. He smiled, half-hearted. They moved like dancers off rhythm, trying, failing, pretending not to notice the weight in the air. Later, as she folded her blazer and laid it across the couch, Daniel stepped into the doorway of the bedroom and leaned against it. "I got a call today," he said carefully. "From my father." Sasha looked up. "He wants us to go to the Okoro Foundation Gala next week. Officially together." She said nothing for a moment. "Then you mean as husband and wife?" He nodded. She studied his face. "And if we don't, they'll talk," he admitted. "The board, the media, my father. He's already pushing the narrative that this marriage is a PR stunt." Sasha walked over and stood in front of him. "Is it?" Daniel blinked. "What? This marriage?" she said, eyes locked to his. "Was it just a strategy to win the board over? Or do I actually mean something to you?" His throat bobbed. He didn't look away. "You mean something to me? Then tell me who Emily is." His breath caught. There it was. The moment everything shifted, Daniel sat down on the edge of the bed slowly, running a hand over his jaw. Sasha remained standing, arms crossed, not in anger, but in quiet request. "I should have told you." He said, "I wanted to. 100 times." She waited. "Emily was my sister." Sasha blinked. "She died 4 years ago. Leukemia. She was only 22. The world seemed to slow. I spent every night in that hospital with her," he continued. "And when she passed, I shut everything off. I buried it, even from Luna, especially from her. She didn't know how to deal with grief. And I didn't want her to try." His voice trembled for the first time. "I haven't told anyone about Emily in years. Not fully. I didn't know how to start." Sasha knelt in front of him, quietly. "Gently, you just did." He looked at her, awe exposed, something soft breaking beneath the surface. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She touched his face. "Thank you for telling me." He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers, and for the first time, their silence wasn't heavy. It was healing that night. As the lights dimmed and the world slipped into stillness, Sasha lay awake in his arms. The photograph was still in her drawer at work. Luna was still a question mark. And the gala loomed ahead like a test neither of them were ready for. But here right now was a beginning, not built on convenience, not on strategy, but on something. Harder, something more honest, truth, and somewhere beneath the weight of their secrets and scars. a fragile, blooming hope that maybe, just maybe, this was becoming real. The morning light streamed through the sheer curtains, spilling across the hardwood floor in warm golden ribbons. Sasha stirred gently, her head resting against Daniel's chest, his steady breath rising and falling beneath her cheek. It was the first time in days, maybe weeks, that she had felt him fully present. No walls, no curated silences. Just skin, breath, and truth between them. Daniel's arm tightened around her instinctively. Even in sleep, for a moment she allowed herself to linger in that stillness. To believe in the softness of now, despite the tension that hummed beneath it. But reality, like morning, always returned. She slid out of bed slowly, careful not to wake him, and padded barefoot into the kitchen. The apartment smelled faintly of citrus and cedar, his scent. Familiar now. Anchoring Dot, she opened the fridge, pulled out eggs and tomatoes, began to cook. Quietly, methodically, her hands moved with purpose, but her mind drifted to Luna. To the letter, to the photograph still tucked away in her office drawer. She didn't regret confronting him, but she knew the game had shifted, now that the truth had entered their space. The stakes were no longer just emotional. They were visible, political, strategic, and Sasha, whether she liked it or not, was now a part of Daniel's empire with all the scrutiny that came with it. Daniel appeared in the doorway not long after, hair tousled, eyes still heavy with sleep. He leaned against the frame, watching her. "You cook now?" he murmured, voice rough from sleep. "I cook when I'm nervous," she replied softly, not turning around. He stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her from behind. She didn't resist, but her body remained a little too still in his. He noticed. "You're still thinking about her?" He said. "No," she said, turning finally to meet his gaze. "I'm thinking about us, and what happens next." Daniel nodded slowly. "My father called again," he admitted. "What did he say?" "He's sending a car. We're expected at the Okoro Foundation Gala on Friday." Sasha raised an eyebrow. "So soon? They're treating this marriage like an open wound," he said bitterly. "They want to see if it bleeds." Sasha sighed. "And we're expected to play what happy couple?" Daniel reached for her hand. "No," he said, "not happy, just real." She held his gaze. "I can do real," she whispered. He leaned in and kissed her forehead. A quiet thank you, wrapped in gesture. There were no promises, no sudden certainty. It's just a growing sense that maybe amid the layers of lies and legacy, something real was trying to survive. Later that afternoon, while Sasha stood by the window of her office, her phone buzzed. A private number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello." There was a pause, then a familiar voice, low and precise. "Miss Sasha, our name is Aluchi Okoro, Daniel's aunt. I believe we need to talk." Sasha blinked. "How did you get my number?" "Have many numbers," the woman replied smoothly. "But only one intention, which is to help you understand what you've married into, or it swallows you whole." The line went dead. Sasha stood still, phone pressed to her ear, the dial tone humming like a warning. Across the city, in a secluded office tower, Luna sat. Across from Chief Okoro, Daniel's father, she poured herself a drink with steady hands. "He's taking her to the gala," she said flatly. The chief didn't flinch. "Let him. She's different. Not like the others." "She's weak," the old man said coldly. "She still believes in love." "That makes her a liability." Luna tilted her glass. "Or a weapon." He turned to her. "You said you wanted him back." "I do," she said softly. "But I don't need him broken." The chief smiled thinly. "We'll break her just enough," he said, "and he'll come running." That night, Sasha returned home to find a parcel at the door. No note, no name. Inside was a gown. Midnight blue, satin, elegant. And beneath it, a small handwritten card. "Every queen must walk into fire eventually. Let's see if you rise." She set the card down slowly, then folded the dress over. Her arm. And walked inside, head high, back straight, heart steady. Let them come. She was ready. The days passed with quiet precision, as if the world itself was bracing for the storm. Sasha's routine became sharper. Every morning, she woke earlier than before, her meetings tighter, her decisions firmer. The silence between her and Daniel softened into a kind of pact. They didn't speak of the gala, but they both prepared for it in their own ways. On Wednesday morning, she stood in the mirror wearing the midnight blue gown. It fit perfectly. The neckline was regal, the stitching immaculate. There was power in the way it fell across her shoulders, sculpted her frame. But it wasn't the dress that gave her presence. It was the resolve behind her eyes, across the room. Daniel watched her quietly from the doorway. "Say something," she said, her voice calm but guarded. He stepped forward, his gaze never leaving her. "You look like someone the world should be afraid of." She turned. "Are you?" He paused. "Yes," he admitted. "But not for the reasons you think." She looked at him, really looked. Tan saw something flickering beneath the surface. Fear, admiration, maybe even love. But mostly the sobering weight of what they were about to walk into. "You know they'll come for me," she said. "Your father, Luna, the entire room." "I know. They'll try to humiliate me. I won't let them." "I'm not asking for protection," she replied. "I'm asking for partnership." Daniel stepped closer. "Then let's walk in together. As partners. Nothing less." Friday night arrived with rain. It didn't pour, just enough to stain the city glassy and cold. The kind of rain that made heels slippery and intentions sharper. The gala was held at the Okoro. Foundation's ancestral Istatan, architectural echo of old Lagos and new ambition. Marble columns, chandeliers, velvet, shadows. The kind of space where power didn't speak, Kit observed, as Sasha and Daniel stepped out of the car. Flashbulbs ignited like gunfire. Questions flew. "Mr. Okoro, is the marriage legitimate?" "Sasha, how long have you two been together?" "This APR stunt after the board scandal." Neither of them answered. They just walked slow, united, unbothered, her hand in his. His jaw set like armor, dot inside. The crowd parted like tidewater. Eyes followed them. Whispers rose in corners. Old investors. Politicians. Industry legends. Legacy enemies. The elite, and at the heart of it all. Chief Ogu Okoro stood with a drink in his hand and a look that didn't quite smile. "Son," he said as Daniel approached. "Father." The air between them was oxygenated with history, charged and brittle. "And this must be the wife." The chief said, turning to Sasha. She met his gaze without flinching. Sasha knew Okoro. She said clearly, "Of course," he said, lips curling faintly. "The girl who returned the wallet, and earned a place beside your son," she added, her tone light but precise. The chief raised his glass slightly. "We'll see how long it lasts." Sasha didn't blink. "Swill." The older man let out a low laugh, half insult, half intrigue. He walked away. Daniel exhaled slowly beside her. "You didn't just hold your ground," he murmured. "You drew a line in the marble." "Good," she said. "They need to know I'm not decoration." Across the room, Luna watched from behind a flute of champagne, her eyes calculating. She didn't approach. Not yet. She didn't need to. Power was patience. She had time. An hour later, the gala swelled with performances, speeches, auctions. A violinist played near the fountain. Waiters moved like shadows with silver trays. Then came the moment Daniel was called to speak. Sasha stood behind the glass doors of the ballroom, watching as he walked to the podium, applause ringing like distant thunder. He looked out at the room, not just at the investors, but at his father, at Luna, at the ghosts of legacy and expectation. And then he looked at her, Sasha, his wife. His mistake, his miracle, his mirror. He took a breath and spoke. "Many of you know my name. Many of you know my story or pieces of it. You know what? I've built what I've broken, what I've inherited. But tonight, I won't talk about Okoro Holdings, or market growth, or legacy funds. I want to talk about failure and what it means to fall and choose to rise differently. The room shifted. Stillness, every eye on him. Years ago, I made decisions driven by ego. I hurt people, hid things, tried to fix what was broken with money, power, and charm. It worked, till it didn't. And then someone found me again, not at my best, but at my lowest. She didn't save me. She didn't even like me. But she reminded me what honor looks like. It's what real partnership feels like. And she became my wife. He turned fully toward Sasha now, not because it made sense, but because she made me better. And tonight, that is the only legacy I care about. The crowd erupted. Some clapped politely, others uncertainly. But in one corner, Chief Okoro watched without moving, and Luna's eyes narrowed as Daniel stepped down from the stage. Sasha met him at the bottom of the steps. "You really said all that?" she whispered, stunned. "I meant all of it," he said, and then he kissed her. Not for the cameras, not for the crowd, not for the crowd, but for them. Finally, fully for them. For a moment, the room fell away. The flashbulbs didn't matter. The applause, the whispers, the cold glances from Luna, or the calculating stillness of Chief. Okoro, all of it, blurred as Daniel kissed Sasha, with the steadiness of someone who had made a decision. And she let him, not because the world was watching, but because something in her had shifted too. Not softened exactly, but aligned. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. It was recognition of the man he was trying to become, of the woman she was already becoming when the kiss broke. Daniel's hand lingered lightly at her back, and they faced the room together, united for now. But the reckoning didn't take long. By Monday, headlines spun 1,000 versions of the story. Marriage of redemption. Heir to Okoro Holdings weds former cleaner turned executive power couple, or perfect cover-up. And buried in the middle pages, barely noticed, a curious detail. Chief Agu Okoro has yet to release an official statement that silence said everything at headquarters. The energy was electric, half suspicion. Some employees greeted Sasha with newfound respect, others with quiet envy, and a few with barely concealed scorn. She walked through it all with deliberate calm. Her heels clicking across the glass corridor were now a daily rhythm of power. But when she entered her office, something unexpected waited for her. A plain envelope. No name. She opened it slowly. Inside, one line written on cream paper. He spoke. "Now it's your turn." No signature. No trace. But she knew. Luna. That evening, Sasha didn't go home. She returned to the floor where she used to sweep and scrub now, polished by others. She passed the empty canteen where she used to eat alone, the small prayer room where she once cried. She sat quietly in the back hallway, cross-legged, back against the wall. She needed to remember, not because she doubted who she had become, but because she needed her origin to guide her next step. The next morning she arrived at the boardroom 20 minutes early, not for Daniel, not for the press, but for herself. When the board members began to arrive, gray suits, sharp eyes, legacy men and women who thought they understood power, Sasha didn't flinch. Daniel wasn't at this meeting. He'd been called away. That was fine. She didn't need him for this. When Chief Agu Okoro entered last, flanked by silence and tradition, Sasha stood and greeted him with a nod, not deference. It's a nod of equals. The room stilled. He sat. She spoke. "I know what many of you think," she began, "that I'm a symbol, a Cinderella story with an expiration date. Some in the room shifted, but I am not here because of my marriage, or my background, or pity. I am here because I earned this seat, because I outworked, outlasted, and outgrew the limits people placed on me." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "I've rebuilt departments, created efficiency programs that saved this company millions. and initiated partnerships that diversified our pipeline by 26% without a title, without applause. She placed a thin file on the table. In this folder are my proposals for Okoro Holdings. Next, frontier community-led investment arms in underserved cities. Scalable, ethical, profitable, tested. Silence. Chief Okoro didn't move. But he was listening. Deeply. She continued. I'm not asking for your trust. I'm offering you results. The chance to be part of something more than empire building. Legacy is not about power. It's about people. Her gaze settled on the chief. Even. Your son sees that now. A long-waited pause. Then the chief spoke. His voice low, deliberate. Leave the folder. You'll hear from me in 3 days. That was it. No smile, no insult, just a promise. And somehow that was more powerful than applause. Sasha left the boardroom, feeling none of the triumph she thought she would. Instead, she felt a calm clarity. A storm had passed, but another was gathering because power was shifting, and not everyone would surrender their grip. Without a fight, especially not Luna. 3 days passed, no word from the chief. But the silence didn't rattle Sasha. She had faced worse with far less behind her. Instead, she focused on her own quiet revolution, walking through each department, listening, watching, asking questions. The board never bothered with. She noticed the overworked interns in logistics, the broken procurement process in regional partnerships, the fear in the finance. Team every email to the chief copied, every breath held. This company had grown bloated. From hierarchy and worship, it was time for a different rhythm. By Friday morning, she had her second binder ready. Not to present, but to prepare. Because if Chief Okoro didn't answer her, she would move anyway. With or without permission, but she didn't need to make the move first. Because by noon, Luna struck. Not with an email, not even a call, but with a curated, quiet explosion. A confidential memo leaked online. A breakdown of Okoro Holdings. Foreign supplier scandals, child labor in a cobalt mine. Bribery. Allegations in South Sudan. Carbon violations buried deep in the quarterly reports. Sasha wasn't surprised by the content. She had flagged the issues months ago. What stunned her was the narrative. The leak blamed her, suggested she'd known and done nothing. That under her oversight, the Ethical Review Board had collapsed. That Chisasha Nuku Okora was either complicit or incompetent. Anonymous sources. Spliced emails. Doctored timelines. It was surgical. Precise. Luna's hand, no doubt. And the world swallowed it within 2 hours. Hashtags trended. #OKORO. Exposed. Hashtag from mop to mess. Hashtag no UK. You cover up the media. Painted her rise as a PR fantasy. A dangerous mistake. In the privacy of her office, Sasha stared at the screen, not blinking, not flinching. She didn't rage, didn't panic. She reached for her black notebook. It's the one she kept hidden under her drawer. The one where she'd written everything down from the start. Every lie, every truth, every whisper in the hallway. Because she had always known. This day would come. She just didn't know it would come from a woman who once offered her tea with a smile and poison in her words. Meanwhile, in a high-rise suite far from the storm, Luna reclined in a robe, wine glass in hand. The TV played Sasha's media takedown on loop. She smiled faintly. Not cruelly. Just confidently. Sasha had made a fatal error in her view. She thought merit was enough. That sincerity could guard against the wolves. But Luna knew better. She had bled in the shadows long before Sasha ever wore heels. And she had no intention of losing to a girl who forgot that the crown sits on thorns. Daniel was the last to hear. He had spent the day visiting a rural microfinance program, his first solo initiative. Sasha had encouraged it, told him it was time to step out from his father's frame. And when he saw the headlines, the slant, the disgrace, they hit him like glass, shattering in the chest. He read it all. Then he read between the lines, the inconsistencies, the suddenness, and, most of all, the smell of Luna. He knew her patterns, her moves, her elegance with daggers. And this was vintage Luna. But what stunned him wasn't her cruelty. It was the realization that the chief had allowed it, possibly even ordered it that night. Daniel stormed into his father's private study unannounced. The chief didn't look up from his ledgers. "You've seen the reports," Daniel said, voice cold. "I've seen distractions." The chief replied, still writing, "She's your daughter-in-law. She is not your protection. This is not the one who buried those suppliers under fake reports. That was you, your legacy." The chief finally looked up. "Watch your mouth." "I will," Daniel said. "As soon as you stop watching me with Luna's eyes, silence." "Then you were never meant to lead this company. You lack instinct." Daniel said quietly, "I'm just done leading it your way." He left without another word, and Sasha. She didn't cry, she didn't beg, she went home, made a pot of tea, and sat on the floor with her notebook. She opened to a page. It's marked "contingency," because some women dream of power and others prepare for the day. Power betrays them by Monday morning. Sasha's office was no longer hers. The key card stopped working. Her name scrubbed from the internal directory. Her calendar wiped clean. No formal notice. No dismissal letter, just erasure. She stood at the elevator for a long moment. Shoulders square, breath steady, eyes hollow with fire. She didn't try to force her way in. That would have pleased them too much. Instead, she walked away. Past curious eyes and guilty ones. Past whispered apologies from junior staff who once looked up to her. Past silence from those who had once praised her rise but had gone mute in her fall. She walked like someone who still owned something far more valuable than a title, memory, and evidence, in a quiet corner of Lagos. Sasha entered an old co-working space she hadn't visited in years. It was dusty, sunlit, and full of echoes back when she'd first learned how to draft reports, how to read contracts, how to stay invisible, a place for strivers, for the nearly forgot tens. She set up her laptop, laid out her notebooks, and made 3 calls, not to lawyers, not to journalists, to survivors. People she'd helped quietly over the years, an accountant she'd saved from wrongful termination, a regional supplier she once refused to underpay, a programmer who coded an internal audit software she never claimed credit for. She didn't need an army, she needed truth, and people with nothing left to lose, while Sasha built quietly. The Okoro building spun. Luna had taken Sasha's chair. Officially, it was temporary oversight. But everyone understood. Luna was now acting. VP of Ethics and Sustainability. Her reign was precise and glacial. She counseled. Sasha's programs with carefully worded memos cost inefficiency reviews. She froze the community partnerships, reassessment pending executive audit. And she ensured that Sasha's name, her legacy, faded from public reports. To the board. Luna was exactly what they craved. A scalpel. A woman who could destroy, without getting blood on the carpet. But what Luna didn't see, what none of them did, was that Sasha was no longer playing their game. She was rewriting it. One evening, 3 weeks into her disappearance, a video leaked online. It wasn't flashy, just Sasha sitting at a plain desk, no makeup, no branding. Behind her, a corkboard full of documents, dates, receipts. Red strings like arteries crossing truth. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply spoke. "My name is Sasha Nuku. You know me as a cleaner who became an executive. What you don't know is that long before they gave me an office, I was already investigating what they tried to bury." She leaned forward. They wanted a fairy tale. I gave them facts. And then evidence. Real supplier logs. Altered documents. Proof of bribery traced to Luna's private holding account. Even connections to land grabs in Sierra Leone masked as sustainability initiatives. She didn't accuse the chief directly. She didn't have to. The data spoke louder than any accusation by morning. Everything had changed. Luna's name trended. Globally, not for her elegance, but for her fingerprints. Board members scrambled. Stakeholders demanded emergency meetings. The press, once eager to bury Sasha, now sought interviews. Apologies, Engels. And Chief Okoro. He remained silent, but inside his estate he watched the video again and again. This was not an emotional outburst. This was a calculated counterstrike. Sasha had turned her exile into a courtroom, and now the world was watching. Yet Sasha knew this wasn't a victory. Not yet, because Luna wouldn't go quietly. She was made of shadows and steel. And the chief? He hadn't survived this long by folding after the first blow. But for the first time, Sasha wasn't alone. The world had seen her. And Daniel Strange from the Empire, unsure of his place, sent a single message. 4 words, no preamble, no flourish, just ready when you are.